Hello, everybody. So it's finally here. Evangelion 1.0 plus 3.0 Thrice Upon a Time has finally been released, and spoilers are now up, including a rather detailed plot summary that we're going to go through together. So I guess just warning up front, very obvious, there's going to be a lot of spoilers in here. I've already read through this myself. I'm not going to wait to see it because people have already basically told me what happens. And who knows how long it's going to be before we get a North American release. So let's just go through it. Overall, I don't know how to feel about this. I'll probably have to see it. I kind of feel this might have been passable if this was just a standalone. Even if Q hadn't have existed, I think this would have been a lot better than it is. It kind of feels to me like after Q happened, they had no idea where they were going to go. So they just said, we're going to throw in as much fan service as possible, and that'll make everybody happy. And I think they have mixed results. So we'll just go through them. I initially was like, this is really stupid, and a lot of it is really stupid. But it's kind of like poetry, they rhyme. It's kind of like, I think the best way of describing it is, it's the inverse of End to Evangelion, both in terms of what happens and thematically and emotionally. It kind of reminds me a bit in some ways of the Game of Thrones season finale, where they really had no idea how to end it, so they just kind of threw something together and shoved in a bunch of fan service. So let's just get through this. So Q ends. Asuka, Shinji, and Rei are picked up in a truck. They go back to a Studio Ghibli-esque idyllic village. So apparently not the entire world hasn't been destroyed. Just they can reverse the effects of third impact in some places, I guess. I don't know, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But we get our first instance of fan service. It's like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't know what's happening. But you remember those characters you like? They're happy. That's kind of like how most of this movie goes. So they go there. So Toji is the village's doctor. He's married to Hikari, and they have a child together. I mean, that's very sweet. It's nice to see those two get together. Kensuke's there. I've heard people say that Kensuke Asuka is canon now, which I can't even imagine. Anyways, so Shinji's apparently going to be staying with Asuka, and she's naked except for the eye patch. They're supposed to live together again. Shinji just like apparently keeps vomiting. Now I haven't seen that in some other reviews, so I don't know how accurate this part is. But for some reason, I don't know if you've seen Q. In Q, for whatever reason, by the way, Q is 3.0. You cannot redo. They put a collar around Shinji's neck that explodes if you press a button. And rather than taking it off, Waru puts it on himself for some reason. And Asuka has one now. I don't know if it's explained why she has one. I guess it's just there. So Asuka says something along the lines of, you throw up at the sight of me, what's wrong with you? How can you throw up when you're not eating anything? I mean, and it's like poetry, they rhyme. It's like Asuka says, how disgusting at the end of Evangelion, and now Shinji's the one who's feeling sick. Then we have a bunch of scenes of Rei Q trying to become a human, and she's like, what is love? What is affection? What is breastfeeding? What is babies? All that kind of stuff. And that sounds kind of cringy, but heartwarming. So let's see here. So Asuka is staying in this town to protect it. Rei is helping out around town, planning rice, and becoming more of a person. Shinji's starting to come around. His friends are there for him. Kensuke shows Shinji how to fish and shows Shinji that the thing that keeping the third impacts away. I don't know if that's really explained. And then Kaji shows up. But wait a minute, I thought Kaji was dead. or I don't know if it was established that he died in the context of this series. I don't know. Maybe his voice actor didn't come back. So apparently, Kaji died during Third Impact off screen, which is kind of a lame send off. But Misato was pregnant, and this new Kaji is Misato and Kanji's son. So that's why Misato was angry at Shinji, because Kaji died off screen during Third Impact. I honestly, I think probably what happened is they just threw that in because I think they just forgot. I think they just forgot about it. Like, they forgot Kaji wasn't in queue, and they're like, we need to wrap up that loose end. And nothing about the way Misato behaves in that movie makes any sense. So let's just come up with something. And it's like, so Misato and Kaji had a son. He looks exactly like Kaji. Misato's abandoned her son because she's the most irresponsible guardian of all time. So apparently, the Sadat player is something that maybe that happened in the previous movie, that the tape that Gendo gave him the tape player. I don't really remember that, but so apparently the tape player is something that was originally Gendo's that Shinji got. So Rei like turns into LCL and pops for some reason. I don't know, because she needs to consume more of it. So then he decides he's going to help Misato to return the world back to normal. So they're still doing stuff. Mari reintroduces herself to Shinji. We have another fan service moment where Asuka says, when you were making our lunches, I did start to like you. I liked you, but that was a long time ago when I was still a child. So like I said, I don't see it here, but people have told me Asuka Kensuke is now canon, which is really lame. So as like the biggest Asuka Shinji shipper of all time, I don't know, this irritates me. Asuka's been kind of relegated to like a minor supporting character in the rebuild. I think Kwaru got substantially more screen time. It's, I don't know. It is what it is. Mari probably got about as much, and you know how I hate Mari. I think one of my issues with this is I don't think they resolve who Mari is. There isn't anything cool. Like, I was hoping, it's stupid, but the idea that she's Shinji and Asuka's daughter from the future is interesting. It's dumb and it doesn't really make a lot of sense, but it's kind of an interesting twist. It's better than nothing, which is what we get in this movie. So Gendo's got Eva 13, and he's going to try to set off Fourth Impact. So we have an epic battle scene between an army of Skull Evas and the repaired Unit 2. So apparently Asuka became an angel in the second movie, and she has like a restraining bolt in her eye, which, because she's wearing the eye patch, it doesn't really make any sense. Also, I thought Unit 13 didn't have an AT field. Didn't it need those like drones to float around it because it couldn't generate an AT field? So she takes it off. She yells, your AT field means nothing to me. Eva 13 wakes up and rips it to shreds. Gendo is going to merge with the ascended Eva 13, and he is confronted by Misato and Ritsuko. It's like, it's poetry, it rhymes. You know how Gendo shot Ritsuko in the original Into Evangelion? In this one, she shoots him. His visor gets cracked, and she blows his head open, so there's brains everywhere. He picks them up and puts them back into his head. Apparently, like, there's nothing inside of him. His whole being is hollow. And he merges with Unit 13 to bring about the additional impact. And it seems like, I don't know, like, a lot of this really sounds like they were trying to fix the problems that 2.0 and Q had. Like, a lot of the things that didn't make sense. I think this movie would be a lot better if Q didn't exist, or if this just had have been This could almost just be a standalone, like end to Evangelion's happening, and then Shinji wakes up in this world, and this is the alternate ending. Because I don't think you even really need to see any of the previous movies to understand what's going on. I mean, this sounds somewhat more coherent than the previous ones so far. So, they're gonna let Shinji pilot Unit 1 again. That's probably a concern a lot of people complained about, that Shinji didn't get to use Unit 1 in the third movie. Misato's like, I guess there's nothing else that can be done. Sakura's like, no, Shinji keeps fucking up. Except he didn't in the second movie. He did what he was told to do. So they shoot at Shinji, and Misato takes the bullet for Shinji. Mari scoops up Shinji in her Eva and gets him to Unit 1. So Shinji goes into God mode, and this is where we get into like the absolute insane batshit crazy shit, which once again is the inverse of what happened in Event to Evangelion. So Gendo and Shinji go on the train and they talk. Gendo does his backstory. From my understanding, it's exactly the same as what was in episode 21. He didn't care about people before he met Yui. He was completely emotionally dependent upon her. We go back and we see Shinji get taken away. Shinji gives him back the Sadat player. So apparently, like, they fight across the entire series. So like 13 in Unit 1, like they go to like the first episode and they're fighting there. They fight in the classroom, they fight in Misato's apartment. It's just complete and utter like insanity. All that stuff happened, and they they eventually just have a heart to heart. Gendo apparently gives up. Shinji and him kind of finally reconcile. Once again, this is very much, I think, what people wanted in End to Eva, because we get a bit of that where Gendo kind of finally admits that everything he's done was wrong, and that deep down he does love Shinji in his own extremely twisted way. So it feels like they just wanted Shinji to finally confront his father, for them to finally have their heart to heart. And we've got like a whole bunch of stuff like, okay, Toji and Hikari are together. We get some heartwarming Rei moments. Misato isn't a bitch anymore. Shinji gets back in Unit 1. Like, it just sounds like they're trying to respond to all the complaints. And that's the opposite of what End to Eva was. Because to a large extent, End to Eva was Ano throwing a temper tantrum that people complained about the original ending. He was like, I'm going to give you guys exactly what you want, but I'm going to do it in the most abrasive, like, shitty way possible to try to piss you off. So they, like, after this scene, they go to a movie studio. So apparently there's like Evangelion costumes. So we've gone like full on meta now. So Shinji, Rei, and Shinji, Rei, and Kwaru are meeting in it, and they're like, this whole thing is actually an anime with people acting in it. Although anime is hand drawn, so why are there costumes? I don't know. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. So like, what are we? So they're like, they're sitting around and they're having a council scene. They're like, we're gonna make a new world, and they're like, what is the new world gonna be? Apparently Shinji speaks in English. He's going to be like, it's like, and I'm going to cringe saying this, it's going to be like a Neon Genesis. I mean, that's really, really lame, but kind of awesome. I love gratuitous title drops. It sounds like that's like the ultimate gratuitous title drop. So, I mean, that's kind of awesome. And then Shinji's like, maybe we can have Mari around this time. And that's like where we're really seeing the real shit of this is going to happen soon. So Shinji remembers the anime and he's like, we're going to go back in time and we're going to redo the anime series. I don't actually, I don't get it. So is he referring, okay, because so Mari wasn't around Mari was around in the rebuilds, but she wasn't around in the anime. So I guess Shinji's like, we're gonna do the anime again, but Mari's gonna be in the anime and not in the rebuild. I don't know. It doesn't make a lot. So then Shinji is in Eva 1 and has the sphere, a Lance of Longinus and the Lance of Cassius, Hope and Despair combined. There are literal flashbacks to End to Evangelion because we have to wrap up everything. Giant Ray comes back. Misato crashes super ship into it. He's gonna stab himself to restart the world, but Yui's like, no, I got this. And then Unit 1 and Unit 13 merge, and Gendo and Yui are finally reunited. Once again, like I said, this is like fan service level 10. It's like we're gonna give everybody everything they ever wanted. You get a scene of Asuka kicking ass. Toji and Hikari are married. Gendo gets to be with his wife again. Shinji finally has the heart to heart with his father. It's every like fan servicey thing. There's a red LCL. Um, red, Shinji tells Asuka that he liked her too. Tells her to take care of Kensuke. So Kensuke and Asuka are together. They barely interacted and they hated each other in the original series. I maintain that the only person for Asuka is Shinji, and Shinji is the only person for Asuka. And so that goes to the end of Evangelion, and so Shinji goes back to the end of Evangelion Beach and is basically nice to Asuka instead of fucking choking her. So Shinji tells Asuka he did love her, but they can't be together because they're toxic together. So we're gonna wrap that little thing up. Once again, it feels like they're just like, we're gonna wrap everything up. Okay, so we're gonna give for Shinji Asuka shippers, there's an alternate reality or something where it happened. You know what this kind of reminds me of? The web novel of Shield Hero. Because a lot of people complained about the web novel, and there were different shippers who got angry. So they like Nafumi like split himself into different parts so they could marry the different women. So it's like, okay, it is Shinji Asuka, but it's also, well, we'll get to it. So then Impact happens, all the Evas are shown, and you hear Shinji say goodbye, all of Evangelion. Third Impact in reverse, everybody returns to their form. The Evas turn into people, the men turn into people, turn to men, women, and children, animals and pets. Everything comes back. They go to the beach, and it's like poetry, they rhyme. So they're on a beautiful beach. It's not red anymore, it's the exact opposite. The camera cuts back to the waves. Now, instead of being in color, it's black and white, and then rough pencil sketches. It's like, yeah, we're doing what. Remember when this happened in the original series where they ran out of money and they had to like draw Shinji in? It was like stop motion animation. We're referencing that too. So so Mari and Shinji are on the beach together. So Mari Shinji is canon apparently. I did not see that one coming. I'm gonna be completely honest. That's really weird. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't think they actually interacted like at all. Um, you know what? I'm gonna be grateful for what's not in this. Shinji and Kwaru aren't canonically gay together, so I'm just gonna be happy that Shinji winds up with a chick. I'm just gonna be happy with that. Um, I guess it kind of makes sense in the context that they're toxic together, but they had feelings for each other. It's hard because I kind of want to hate this, but it has so much fan service in it. It's kind of hard for me to really hate it too much. Like, it's stupid, but so then it pulls back to a live action shot of Tokyo. Um, Uh, and it's a live action shot. The Avas are all gone. It's not sci-fi anymore. It's the real world. And this is what the ending we got in the manga was. And I strongly object to this. I never like the alternate world endings where like people, I don't know if they lose their memories or not, but I kind of think identity is mostly based on memory and experience. I mean, I know there's the soul and there's the permanent part of person, but the psyche is kind of the wholeness of the person is the body, soul, and mind. So it's like it's our world. So Shinji Mari ending, are they canon? It's subjective. No, I think it's canon. It's like when people say the Nameless King isn't Gwen's son. Okay, so other detail. Mari was childhood friends with the Gendo generation. Um, Mari and Asuka get gay moments. Mari's like that to anyone. I don't think it was ever explained who the fuck Mari is, why she doesn't age. Once again, if she was Shinji Asuka's daughter from the future, that would have been better, as opposed to like a nothing burger. Um, let's see here. Misato's given a picture of her son and Shinji together. She also takes down her hair to look like her old self before she sacrifices. Sakura gets a picture of Toji's family. So I think this was pretty good. Pretty good spoiler. It at least presented in like a coherent fashion. So like I said, this doesn't sound terrible on its own. I don't think the previous three movies were in any way leading up to this. Like this doesn't really seem to logically flow from 1.0 because like 2.0 was very much about Shinji and Rei, and then Rei's a peripheral character in this. And then 3.0 was more about Kwaru, and he was a peripheral character in this. And Shinji winds up with Mari, despite like there being no context for that. So it's very much like we're gonna do, like I said, we'll do everything people complained about. We're just gonna give it to you, which once again is not the worst idea. Um, I still like the original and End to Evangelion better than what this is, but this is not unsatisfying. I mean, it at least was an ending, and at least it wasn't like a cliffhanger, or it wasn't um some sort of random nonsense. I mean, it is nonsensical and it is stupid, but it's not horrible. I don't know how to feel about it. I'll have to see the movie. I'm going to say this sounds better than the previous three movies. Like I said, I think to maybe enjoy this film, I should just see it as um a standalone film. I think also to just ditch the idea that it's a unified timeline. I don't like the idea that this is a unified timeline. I know that's kind of canonical, but I prefer to think of OG Evangelion as being its own timeline, the manga as being its own timeline. Although I do fill in some of the holes in the anime with stuff that's in the manga. And Evangelion is like half a timeline. It's an alternate ending, so you can interpret it how you will. And then I kind of view this as another alternative. So you can kind of pick them. I'm just gonna say like make it, to me, I'm just gonna say the Shinji from this timeline and this Asuka are different characters from the Shinji and Asuka in the original timeline. And you shouldn't compare them too much, and you shouldn't view them as being like the same character. They're just very different. And Rei is different in this timeline, and Misato is. I think you just have to view this as like a standalone thing that's kind of inspired by Eva, rather than looking at it as um a direct like canonical sequel, if that makes sense. It's a bit like with the Star Wars reboot, which I don't consider to be canon. Like I don't consider the Force Awakens, Last Jedi, or Rise of Skywalker to be canonical movies. So because that, So overall, I think it's like been a long time coming. I think if I view this as being, like I said, this is an alternate universe. This isn't the same timeline. These aren't the same characters. They're similar, but they developed in a very different fashion. I think if I view it that way, the Rebuild series makes more sense to me. And this does sound a lot better than the previous three movies. So maybe I'm kind of having my congratulations moment, um, where I've kind of learned to accept instrumentality, and I'm kind of accepting this series and these reboots. I'm not going to change my mind though about Q. Q is still garbage, is complete and total garbage, and I'm going to stick by that. Anyways, everybody, God bless. Talk to you later.